We are at Lake Hartwell, and I'm gonna break down the 4 different seasons of the year and how I would fish each one, what this lake has to offer, and why it's one of my favorite lakes. You know, winning the Bassmaster Classic here in 2018 was a life-changing, moment for me. And I'll forever love this lake, and it's got spots and largemouth, and what's cool about it is you can potentially win tournaments with both. I break it down in about 3 different sections. You know, you have your river arms, you have your Tugaloo River and your Seneca River, and both of these rivers run forever. And you got the mid-lake section, which I typically like to fish, and it's got a little bit of everything, that mid-lake section's got all the better spotted bass and largemouth. A lot of tournaments go out of there, so a lot of fish get brought back there. And also you have the lower end of the lake, which is some really, really clear water, but some big spotted bass. You got a couple dominant players that big fish will hold on year round. You have the boat docks, which to me, largemouth, that's the primary cover on Hartwell. The spotted bass, the primary player for them is gonna be those shoals, those long points that come way out, shoals that come way out off the lake that may have a cane pile or brush pile on it, and they'll just use the entire shoal to feed all year long, and they may venture out even to the middle of the lake. It's got a lot of different unique features to this lake, but those big spots and largemouth really gravitate to those 2 different types of structures. So when I come to Lake Hartwell, I like to find the Airbnbs. That's where I've always stayed. You do have Anderson, South Carolina here, which is really accommodating place. You have Airbnbs, hotels, really good food. And I would definitely say that Lake Hartwell is an angler-friendly lake. You go to a place like Green Pond Landing that has a giant boat ramp. But there is ramps surrounding the entire lake. There's not a bad place to launch either. That's what I've noticed about it is the whole lake's got fish in it, so you pick you a boat ramp and go out there and have a blast. Let's talk about Lake Hartwell some more and the different seasons and where I would fish. Starting with the spring, we were just here for a Bassmaster Elite tournament. In the springtime is obviously one of my favorite times to fish. Largemouth start really going shallow, start thinking about spawning when they're pre-spawn. They're a little easier to catch, and they're getting around these docks, setting up on, any of these little small pockets. Any of these long pockets that fork in the back are great pre-spawn, spawn places. These fish are gonna pull up on any of the docks that are going in there. They're gonna spawn on the back sides of these docks, and they're gonna guard fry around the dock somewhere. So the docks really, really play, because it's, like I said, the only cover on the lake, so they're always gonna be around them. I won the Classic back in here, and you can see how it just kind of forks in the back here, and just a lot of fish were pulling back in here to spawn. But I was covering a lot of water on docks, looking for those fish that were pulling up to spawn. It was, that 3rd week of March, which typically on Hartwell, you think about the fish moving shallow. Pulled into a pocket where these fish were suspended under these floating docks and pitching the wacky rig and the Nico rig to them and skipping under those docks, and ended up winning the tournament doing that. There we go. Yes, yes. That's where I would be looking for the largemouth. The spots are almost the complete opposite. You'll have some fish go up there, but a lot of these spots will bet on, all the shoals that are the long points that are coming out on Lake Hartwell. They're gonna, set up on a stump, a rock, anything like that to spawn on. So there's not a bad one on the lake, but one with hard bottom, good rock. There will be a spot spawning on it probably from, let's say, the middle of March to the end of April. So that's what I would be looking for, and it's a great way to have a lot of fun on Lake Hartwell. Springtime on Lake Hartwell, one of my favorite times. One of the best baits is a wacky rig general. This is probably the #1 fish catcher on Lake Hartwell. This is the max scent version. It's got a lot of scent in it, and also it sinks a little bit faster, so you can cover a little bit more water. Bait number 2, springtime. I'm gonna go with the hit worm. This is just the regular hit worm. I'll also throw the hit worm Magnum a ton. You see the difference between this rig and the wacky rig is this has got a nail weight in it. So I got an 1/8 ounce tungsten nail in it, and it's gonna fall straight down, and it's gonna get down into that cover where they're spawning at. The key though is efficiency, nail weight in there, dropping right down the bottom. Come on. Dude, what are the chances of that happening? Showing my bait, that's how good it works. I mean, I don't even have to tell y'all, that's incredible. The last bait that I'm gonna pick up in the spring is a Berkeley Nessie. There's not a lot of glide baits and swim baits that you can throw around docks and skip around docks. A lot of times they'll get off that straight swim bait where it doesn't have a lot of action, or it doesn't have that darting action. And what the Nessie does is it darts back and forth in the water like a glide bait, but it's soft. Skipping this around the boat docks, just throwing it up shallow, covering water. It's a great bait to get bit by a big fish. So post-spawn, summertime, Lake Hartwell, I would be thinking fish coming out, getting on some of these shallower points, and then eventually going out deeper. The herring, when they start spawning, which typically is of the 1st of May, the first couple hours of the morning, the fish start really feeding, especially in the morning times. They're gonna be up shallower on these points. And what I learned this week is the fish don't always stay there. They don't live up here shallow on these points. They just pull up there to feed. They school a little bit, then they're gonna back off and suspend out here, in that 5 to 10 foot. And after that bite starts dying, let's say mid-May, they're gonna start getting out here over brush piles and cane piles. And a lot of people will put them out here, on the tips of points, but also, just look around the point. Wherever that brush pile or that cane pile is gonna be a fish magnet, and that's where those fish are gonna suspend and stay for the summer. This is 25 foot right here, 27 foot. You could have a cane pile coming up to 10 foot below the surface, and that's where the fish are gonna be. So a lot of places to look on Lake Hartwell. Solid one. Okay, you see we're out in the middle of the lake, it looks like, but you saw on the map how many, ridges, points, deep humps. My #1 bait to throw is a cane walker. If they do happen to come up and bust, you can cast it a mile. But calling these fish out of the deep water, the water's so clear, so these fish can see a bait from a long ways away. And that's why topwater is always a great bait, because it just stays on the surface where these fish don't get as good of a look at it. The cane walker though, being a surface bait, is always a player when you're on these herring lakes. Next up is a newer bait from Berkeley. Some of y'all probably heard of it. It's a credge. I throw it a lot back home on Smith. You can sink this bait down to them and almost burn it away from them and bring it up to the surface and act almost like a wake bait. I like chrome and just your natural, translucent colors, but really cool bait. This is just the 100 size. This is just the standard. They make a bigger one and a smaller one, but this is the one that I throw the most. Fall fishing is an interesting time because it gets a little tough. I like fishing in the fall just for that reason. I do not discount the shallow bite when it starts cooling off. Find some stumps, some rocks, any type of cover that's in that 5 to 10 foot. and you can catch some good spots off of it. If that's not working as well, man, the rivers provide a lot of different opportunities to shallow fish. Run up, way up the rivers, find some cooler water. This is Kiowee Dam right here, and you know, I'm sure up here can play, man, just get lost up here and, you know, find those channel swings, any place with a little water on it. Lay downs, wood, is a great place to fish in the fall. So probably one of my #1 baits for fall, catching those spots on Hartwell, is a Nico rig. This is the Hitworm Magnum. There's not a lot of hard bottom out there, so the fish tend to relate to those stumps. Just a piece of cover for them to get around, and had it on a, you know, a #1 or a 1/0 hook. Next bait of my bait of choice for the fall on Hartwell is going to be a buzz bait. And I got a swim bait on the back of here. You can put a toad on there. Anything that's kind of just really just got some weight to it that you can sling around, that shines in the fall, just because you can cover so much water with it. Anytime from September to November, a buzz bait always gonna be on the deck in the fall and get some good bites. So, you know, we've talked about fall fishing and the drawdown of the lake. The docks get less and less water on them, which typically helps out the, you know, the shallow bite. Pitching a jig, I have a little general on the back of this, just something a little different, more finesse, because the water's just crystal clear. Just go find the shallowest docks you can find, skip as many of them as you can, and you're gonna run into some good fish. They're not gonna be under every one, but that's the ones that I like to target. Like I said before, Lake Hartwell, wintertime fishing, I would say it's probably one of the best times to fish this lake. The colder on these herring and spotted bass lakes, to me, the better, the more fun, the bigger the spots I'm gonna catch. And I'm gonna start and run pockets, these deeper drains, you know, have you some picked out on a map, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a pocket. For, you know, these are obviously good, but you know, you can find these ditches or these drains that are out on the main lake too, like in between two islands like this right here. Really fun way to fish on the bottom, and maybe a little suspended as well, but if you can find them on the bottom in the wintertime, you're gonna find some big ones. Definitely a place to go catch a big bag. Wintertime fishing Lake Hartwell, and that's when I go with the Maxent jerk shad. It's a 5-inch bait. I throw it on a smaller tungsten head. I mean, the head size always changes with how deep I'm fishing, and you know, December, January, February, when it's cold, you know, those fish don't want a lot of action. A lot of times the fish will be on the bottom, and I will stop it really when I start seeing the fish notice it. And you can either hold it still or move it away from them, but that's when I immediately click my bell and start going and start bringing the bait up. So the next bait I have for wintertime fishing is a Berkeley fritz side, and this is always when you get a big rain. A lot of times you'll get real good color in the water. You know, pick up a fritz side. Those fish, if the water, you know, it's a warm rain especially, that's when it can be just unbelievable. Red's always one of the popular colors in the wintertime when you're shallow cranking. So if you were looking for a big largemouth on Hartwell, the fritz side is definitely one that I'm gonna have tied on. Hope this really helps y'all, just to get an idea on what to look for. It's a great lake. It can be tricky at times. There's a lot of fish in the lake, a lot of smart fish too. So keep trying different things and get in those unpressured areas and have a blast. He's a little keeper.